So, the summer 2025 transfer window has came to a close. However, who has won the transfer window this summer? That is what we're going to find out today, lads. I am going to be ranking every single Premier League team summer transfer window from worst to best, starting off with the worst teams and slowly building up to the best, of course. As always, remember to subscribe as it's free. And if you enjoy all my content and you have not yet done so, of course, it just really does go a long way to help give me as much support as possible. Remember as well to like the video. It's another massive way to support me. Share the video to as many people as possible, and also click the bell so you never miss one of my latest uploads. And so then, lads, let's get into this video ranking every Premier League side's summer transfer window from worst to best. So starting off then in rock bottom 20th place, the Premier League side who, in my opinion, has had the worst transfer window is going to the Bees, Brentford. Yes, Brentford for me have had the worst transfer window as a whole. Now, this was a solid mid-table side. However, overnight, over the past 2 months, they've just gone completely to crap, really. They've lost their the best manager in the club's history, I would say, in Thomas Frank, and they've replaced him with a set-piece coach, Keith Andrews, who, let's face it, is just not experienced enough to take on a role in the Premier League with Brentford. And as well as that then, on the transfer front, they've lost all their star players. They lost Flecken in goal. They've also lost Christian Norgard, who was a fantastic template in their midfield. They've also lost their 2 star players in the forward line, Brian Mbeumo, and eventually Johan Visa too, to our fellow Premier League sides, Man United and Newcastle United as well. And so overall, looking at all those players they got rid of, and yes, I mean, they have made a couple of decent signings. Like, I think Kelleher is a decent signing there, but apart from that, really, overall, a bit sort of unconvincing, if you know what I mean. Like, of course, Dango Ouattara, yes, is another decent signing. However, will he be able to replicate what both Mbeumo and Visa did last season? No. Overall, like, I mean, I'm just looking at Jordan Henderson replacing Christian Norgard. I mean, he hasn't played in the Premier League for a few years. He's about 36 years old now too. Overall, I think he's past it. And so overall, like, I mean, just looking at the players of signing, really, I mean, will they be able to replicate what the likes of Norgard, Mbeumo, Visa, etc. were doing last season on seasons prior? No. So overall, they believe Brentford losing their star players, losing their manager too, and replacing them with a set-piece coach. Overall, it's been a summer from hell from the Bees, and for me, they've had the worst transfer window. In 19th place then, I've gone for the Hammers, West Ham United here. West Ham obviously haven't had a great start whatsoever to the season. Won their last game pretty convincingly 3-0 away against Nottingham Forest, very surprisingly, but overall still, I'm not buying into Graham Potter's project at West Ham. And I mean, yes, they've kept Jared Bowen once again, which is definitely good, and they've got 50 plus million from Mohamed Kudus, who wasn't great last season. However, now he's gone to Tottenham and he's playing some fantastic football, some of the best football we've seen him play so far in the Premier League. And overall, like, I'm just looking at these signings. I mean, it's Graham Potter's first proper transfer window as West Ham coach, and in my opinion, very unconvincing. You know, the goalkeeper position was an issue. They brought in Mads Hermansen. So far, he hasn't looked great whatsoever. As well as that, then, I mean, they have spent 42 million on Mateus Fernandes, a championship player, a decent player, but they've definitely overpaid there, of course. They still haven't addressed the midfield problem. The 2-man pivot is a massive issue for West Ham. They haven't really addressed that. I mean, Fernandes is more of an attacking midfielder, so I'm not sure how he could maybe fix those issues overall. And overall, like, I mean, from the players we've seen play so far, haven't been too convinced, really. Callum Wilson has been brought in as a super sub, sort of. Is that what West Ham need? I'm not too sure once again. So overall, I do believe West Ham haven't had a great transfer window either. I'm not convinced with the players Graham Potter has brought in. And so overall, for me, they're going 19th as the second worst transfer window in the Premier League this season. In 18th place then, I have gone for Wolves. Now, arguably, you could maybe switch both these sides around between Wolves and West Ham. However, I'm just about going to have Wolves ahead of West Ham, mainly because they did manage to hold on to Strand Larson. They managed to, fend off the likes of Newcastle United from a signature they've kept in, which is massive. However, still, that does not mean it's been a good transfer window for Wolves, because it really has been the opposite for me. They've lost Mateus Cunha to Man United. They've also lost Ryan Aït-Nouri to Man City, two of their most creative players, arguably, both off to Manchester, which definitely isn't great there for the club. And overall, the signings they brought in my opinion, just not great quality players. There's a couple decent players. However, can they do enough to help this Wolves side comfortably stay once again in the Premier League? I'm not too sure. Is there any players in there they brought in who will be able to consistently create good chances for Strand Larson, who can be a goal machine up top? Again, not sure. So overall, in my opinion, not convinced here by Vitor Pereira's side and the business they've done this summer. And so, do I believe the signings they made can they save Wolves from a possible relegation fight? In my opinion, they can't. In 17th place then, I've gone for Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa, this was a massive transfer window for them, and I do believe actually they were limited by FFP, so maybe this placement is a bit unfair, but still overall, I do believe the business they have made, it could have been better still. I mean, they did end up making 5 signings overall. There was only 2 up until deadline day. They have made a couple of decent signings in there, of course. Evan Gassant isn't a bad player overall. Harvey Elliott too from Liverpool, I do believe, is a solid signing there overall too. Likes of Victor Lindelof, not too sure about. Marco Bizot seems to be a wee bit inconsistent as well, and Jadon Sancho definitely is a big gamble there too for sure. They have got rid of quite a lot of players too, which maybe isn't the most smartest thing either, with Aston Villa playing Europa League football, so squad depth will be crucial for them this season. And as well as that, then it's looking like they're going to keep Emiliano Martinez around, a player who seemingly at the end of last season had his mindset that he was going to leave Villa this summer. That move hasn't happened. It doesn't look like it is going to happen. It looks like the talks between Galatasaray and Martinez have fallen through, and so him being around still definitely could be a bit awkward as well. So overall, in my opinion, Unai Emery's side, especially with their poor start of the season, it hasn't been a good summer transfer window, and so overall it's going to be interesting to see if the business they have made will be enough to keep Villa having a decent season here. In 16th place then, I've gone for Bournemouth, maybe slightly high judging by what they've gone through this summer, because they've basically seen their entire backline, their fantastic backline from last season, get sold on. They've lost Kepa for cheap to Arsenal. They've lost Kirkes for relatively cheap to Liverpool. They've lost Dean Howson to Real Madrid, and then they lost Ilya Zabarny to PSG as well. Now, they have got quite a lot of money from that. They've kept Antoine Semenyo. They also have brought in a couple of decent players. Now, I do believe over time, Bournemouth will manage to build, once again, a very solid backline. However, still, in the short term, I do believe they're going to struggle a bit still. And overall, can I see them performing as good as they were last season with the incomings they brought in? No. So overall, Bournemouth, it could have been better. Also could have been a bit worse too. They haven't done too bad here, but overall, losing so many key players in the backline hasn't been great. And so for me, the Cherries come 16th. 15th place then, I've gone for Crystal Palace, mainly because Crystal Palace in Europa Conference League this season, squad depth is going to be a massive, massive thing. And yes, they did make a couple late signings there in deadline day to help with a bit of squad depth for European football this season. However, still, is it enough, in my opinion? No. Now, Yeremy Pino from Villarreal, that's a solid signing in my opinion, but apart from that, really, nothing too exciting, really, just overall squad depth players. Will any of them be good? I'm not too sure, but the main thing I do suppose this summer was they managed to keep quite a lot of players. They lost Ibrahima Eze, yes. However, they kept Adam Morton once again. They've also kept Mark Gehi once again. They managed to fend off Liverpool and keep him around at least until January. So that is something too. And overall, they have got a solid side there. Matata's still there, Sarr's still there. Overall, they play very good as a team, and so the fact they managed to keep the large core of that squad definitely is crucial there, and that definitely has brought them up as far as 15th. However, still, overall, the business hasn't been too great, and so that is why I don't feel I can put them much higher. 14th place then, I've gone for Fulham. Now, the only reason I put Fulham ahead of Crystal Palace here is because squad depth isn't as big an issue for the Cottagers, mainly because they're not playing European football this season. But overall, it was a really underwhelming transfer window here from Fulham. Now, they started to step it up a wee bit in deadline day. They managed to break their own club transfer record to bring in Kevin from Shakhtar Donetsk. It'll be interesting to see how the Brazilian will get on. Overall, still, I mean, they've lost Andreas Pereira back to Brazil. In my opinion, that's going to be a bad loss there for the attacking midfield department. But still, overall, they're a decent side still. And maybe you could argue they should be a bit lower because they really did do nothing in this transfer window apart from make a few signings in deadline day. But overall, because they're a Premier League side, because they've got no European football, I do believe they can get away with it. 13th place then, I've gone for Brighton, the Seagulls. Once again, similarly to a few sides, it's been a pretty mid transfer window for Brighton. Haven't made too many big signings. I mean, a couple of players like Maxim de Kuiper, I do believe will be good signings in the long term, especially for the Seagulls. And I mean, as well as that, then they've managed to keep Carlos Baleba. They fended off United for his signature, and they've kept Baleba around for what looks like it's going to be another season, which definitely is big for the Seagulls as well in midfield. And mainly as well too, I mean, they have made a couple of exciting signings, but mainly they've got rid of quite a lot of deadwood. I mean, I was looking at Brighton's squad a month or two ago, and I was just seeing so many players. I mean, yes, overall the quality of the squad was high. However, still, they had too many players, and they needed to sell quite a lot of them on, and that's what they've done. Of course, that's what they focused on. And so now they've got a smaller squad, no European football, but still a squad that plays well together. And in my opinion, less players overall in the squad. It leaves Hurtzler, less players, but still a decent sized squad still to focus on and develop. And so I do believe overall that is big stuff for the Seagulls. So Brighton in a 13th, I think that is a fair position. 12th place then, I've gone for newly promoted Leeds United here. Leeds United definitely could have done a wee bit more in my opinion this transfer window, but still you can't blame them. They have made a couple of very good signings, such as Lucas Amachi on a free transfer from Wolfsburg. I do believe that is a fantastic piece of business there. Anton Stock from Hoffenheim, paid a bit, I think around 17 million for the midfielder, but I do believe he's going to be a solid player too. They've also brought in like Gabriel Goodmanson, who is now starting left back for this Leeds side, and as well as that then they've also brought Lucas Perry in to replace Melia, and that's a big upgrade there in the goalkeeper department. Maybe compared to the likes of Burnley and Sunderland, you could say they could have done a wee bit more, but still overall I do believe their squad is decent, and overall it hasn't been a bad transfer window for Daniel Farke's side. In 11th place then, I'm going to go for another newly promoted side, and this time it is the Clares. Burnley, definitely in my opinion, Burnley, very underrated this summer transfer window. I mean, they've brought in quite a lot of players. They spent quite a lot of money too, as well as that then. They managed to move on quite a lot of players too. It's been a very busy summer transfer window with Turf Moor, but overall, I do believe the squad they've got, maybe it's not good enough to say it, but I do believe it's as much as the Clares could have done. I mean, I've seen Burnley play against United, obviously, and I was very impressed, I have to say, with some of the players they brought in the defence line, obviously. Martin Dubravka on a free from Newcastle. That is a fantastic signing there. Dubravka, it's a quality Premier League goalkeeper, and so he will be fantastic for sure this season for Scott Parker's side. As well as that then, Hartman at left back from Feyenoord, a very good player. Kyle Walker even too, for very cheap as well. Very good player there too, I do believe, for this Burnley side. They also brought in a couple exciting players as well, like Jadon Anthony, who has had a very good start to life so far this season for the Clares on a permanent deal. And so overall, this Burnley transfer window has been good. Will they stay up still? I don't think so. However, still, you can't blame them. It's been a good summer transfer window at Turf Moor, in my opinion. In 10th place then, I've gone for the Magpies Newcastle United here, and in my opinion, lads, this is as low as anyone should be putting Newcastle. Now, I know many people are just saying Newcastle's transfer window has been terrible. However, still, in my opinion, you can make a bigger argument of putting Newcastle higher than 10th than lower than 10th. Now, yes, I know the first 6-7 weeks maybe of the transfer window was poor because they were getting rejected by every player left, right and centre. Alexander Isak didn't want to stay at the club. Their best player was trying to force a move which he eventually obviously would get as well. However, that injected 120 million into Newcastle. They were in the receiving end of a British transfer record, and so in my opinion as well, they did manage to obviously make a couple of signings, and those signings which they did make, in my opinion, are all very good. Of course, Anthony Elanga, that's a quality signing there for the right wing. As well as that, then they've replaced Isak with the likes of Nick Voltemada from Stuttgart. Not too sure how he's going to be, but he definitely does have a lot of potential. And as well as that, then Johan Vase, who I do believe will be a quality striker as well. Premier League experience as well, Premier League proven. And so those two players, and Elanga, both very good signings in there. As well as that, then across the pitch, Malik Chia at the back line, decent signing there too. So overall, this Newcastle side still are looking pretty good. Now, one main argument could be, their midfield still is looking pretty, low on sort of, quantity of players, and maybe for a team playing in the Champions League and the Premier League, that could be a bit of a struggle for Newcastle this season. But overall, still, I do believe from the situation they found themselves in at the start of August, I do believe the past month or so, they've really managed that well. And so overall, I have a lot of respect for Newcastle, really, in the summer transfer window. However, still, it was a bit of a mess for most of the parts. So in my opinion, 10th place is where Newcastle will sit in my ranking. In 9th place then, I've gone for David Moyes' Toffees, Everton here. Overall, Everton, very positive transfer window. We all knew from the past season or two, their back line was solid, even their midfield was half decent, but the forward line in particular was an issue. Everton were not scoring goals, and so that is where they needed to focus on, and that is exactly what they focused on. I mean, to start off with Jack Grealish known from Man City, what a signing that has been. And so far, 4 assists in 2 games. What more could he ask for, really? That's a fantastic return already. Grealish, many people forget because he was so bad at Man City, is still a quality player, and looks like he's going to re-find his form fantastically at this Everton side. As well as that then, Thierry Barry from Villarreal could be a decent forward. Tyler Dibling too, very exciting signing there as well. Kieran Dewsbury Hall, similarly to Jack Grealish. People forget, because Dewsbury Hall never was given a proper chance at Chelsea, people forget how good he was at Leicester City. He was regarded as one of the greatest championship players of all time when he helped Leicester win the title there a few seasons back. So Dewsbury Hall once again proving to the world that he is a quality midfielder and can be one of the best midfielders in the mid-table in the Premier League at least too. So overall, I do believe Everton, they've managed this transfer window fantastically. They've done all they can here, and so 9th place for Everton, a very good transfer window from the Toffees. 8th place then, I've gone for the first Big Six side in Tottenham Hotspur here. Now, Tottenham, obviously, recording this on Thursday night, and the news just came through that Daniel Levy has left after 24 years at the club, and this obviously was his last ever transfer window, overseeing Spurs in his 24-year tenure. And overall, it was a good transfer window. I'm not going to sit here and say it was a bad one. However, still, I do believe, compared to the other Big Six sides, they could have done a wee bit more. Now, Xavi Simons in from RB Leipzig, that is a statement signing there. That's a superstar signing from Spurs, and it does show you that Spurs are capable of making those signings, so that is huge. However, apart from Xavi Simons, in my opinion, I'm a bit more unconvinced. I mean, Jai Palhinha is a decent signing, however, only in loan. I do believe they definitely could have made that one a permanent one. As well as that then, 30 million in Matthias Tally was really poor, in my opinion, in his loan spell last year. Kevin Danso, decent signing too. So overall, like, Spurs haven't had a bad transfer window overall. They still have got a very good squad. Their Kudus so far is also pretty good, coming in from West Ham. So overall, it's been a good transfer window. However, in my opinion, for a side in the Champions League, it could have just been slightly better. So in 8th place here, Spurs, you know, it might seem like they're a bit low. However, still, don't be fooled. It has been a very good transfer window for Thomas Rings first. Now in 7th place, I have gone for my Man United here. I've had to be slightly biased here. Maybe you could argue Spurs should be ahead of United here, but I have to be a bit more optimistic that United have had a slightly better transfer window. Now listen, was our transfer window perfect? No. However, it definitely is building blocks for sure. You know, scoring goals last season was a massive issue, and I would like to think now we have sort of sorted out that issue now. We have brought in Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo, two fantastic players last season. They were scoring goals left, right and centre for Wolves and Brentford respectively last season, and so bringing those two players in, I do believe they'll both be fantastic. Benjamin Sesko too, maybe more of a long-term sort of signing, but I do believe still a striker with bags and bags of potential. He definitely could become a superstar at Old Trafford as well. However, still, there's many issues. You know, we could have got a world-class goalkeeper like Emi Martinez in. Yeah, we settled for Sen Lamens, who, don't get me wrong, definitely is a decent prospect. However, still, he's a keeper for the long term, and it does mean that we're going to still see Bayindir and Onana quite a lot this season. So in my opinion, we've managed the goalkeeper position very poorly, and as well as that, then a failure to get a midfielder in definitely could cost us big time this season. However, another positive is we've managed to get rid of quite a lot of deadwood. Anthony's gone permanently finally. Alejandro Garnacho's finally gone permanently as well. We've got rid of Rashford and Sancho once again for another year too. So overall, in my opinion, we have this definitely something. We're building towards something. It could have been better, but it also could have been a lot worse. So in 7th place then, I've gone for Man United. Not a bad transfer window, we'll say, for Ruben Amorim's first in the summer transfer window for United. In 6th place then, I've gone for Nuno's Nottingham Forest here. Now, once again, Nottingham Forest, going back to what they did a few years ago when they were first promoted back to the Premier League, and that's just signing players all around them. But in my opinion, lads, their business this season has been fantastic. I mean, Anthony Elanga was a big loss there in the forward line. So what have they done? They've doubled up. And then they've doubled up, triple fold, really, of course. They've managed to sort of replace him with 3 players. They brought in Dan Ndoye from Bologna, who I do believe is a quality player. James McAtee from Man City, who will have bagged the potential. And as well as that, then Omari Hutchinson, who was fantastic last season in the Premier League for Ipswich Town. Alongside that, then, they've managed to keep Morgan Gibbs White, albeit controversially, but they have still managed to keep him. And overall, the squad depth they've got is really looking good, especially for a season when they need it most in the Europa League. Unlike Aston Villa, who maybe are lacking quite a lot in the squad depth department, Forest have that squad depth, and so that definitely is massive there overall too. So overall, Forest looking very good coming into the season. Have to say, a very underrated transfer window, and I think it's good enough to get as high as 6th here. In 5th place then, just about missing out in the top 4, I have gone for Chelsea, the world champions Chelsea, just about missing out in top 4, but overall still, it's been a very good transfer window. Plenty of incomings, plenty of outgoings as well. Managed to get rid of quite a lot of deadwood, especially with their sister club Strasbourg. Definitely something fishy going on there, because the amount of business they've made with Strasbourg between signing players and selling players definitely is fishy. However, still, they have managed to make a business out of it. João Pedro was definitely the marquee signing, and so far he's looked very good, a very good goal scorer there in this Chelsea side. As well as that, then Liam Delap although he looks like he's going to be out injured for a while. He still has a decent backup to have there for Jai Pedro. Garnacho too, look at, maybe you can say all you want about his attitude and all, but he still can be a good footballer, and I do believe he will be a good footballer in Maresca's sort of style of play. Estevao too, really exciting player there as well. So overall, a couple of very good and exciting forwards they've got there. However, still, it could have been better. I do believe still they could have bulked up the defence a wee bit more, when you have players like Gigi Donnarumma as well as Emi Martinez floating about the market. In my opinion, could they have maybe replaced Robert Sanchez with a world-class goalie? Yes, so the failure to do that, in my opinion, has brought them down a wee bit here. But overall, great business Måneskin here by Chelsea, just by missing out in top four though, so that's out for 5th place here. In 4th place then, and this definitely won't be seen at the end of the season. However, in this video, 4th place, I am giving it to newly promoted Sunderland. Yes, the playoff winners last season won it in the last minute against Sheffield United at Wembley there at the end of last season, and now they've got all that money in, and they have definitely announced their return to the Premier League in absolute style, because they have just been spending all around them. And overall, like, the main, you see loads of newly promoted sides and they're just signing players left, right and centre, and most of the time maybe it's a bad thing, and once again it could be a bad thing this year because too much new players, the squad doesn't gel together. However, still, the quality we've seen Sunderland sign, we haven't seen the likes of Luton Town and Ipswich Town sign that quality when they've been signing all around them when they get promoted to the Premier League. I mean, the likes of Granit Xhaka, what a player he is to bring in for a newly promoted club. As well as that, then I really like to look at some of their good forwards they brought in too. They managed to upgrade on their goalkeeper, upgrade massively in the defence, brought in experienced European players like Reinildo and Nordi Mukiele as well as the likes of Brian Brobby, who's came in after Mark Guehi's loan was cut short, and Luciel Guitarita is definitely a very good defender too. So overall, like, they've got fantastic squad depth. Will they be able to stay up with that squad depth? So far, it's looking so good. Only time will tell though. However, for Reggie Debree's side, they've made some fantastic business, and so exciting times ahead for the Black Cats' first Premier League season in 8 years. In 3rd place then, I'm going to go for Pep Guardiola's Man City. Yes, in my opinion, yes, it hasn't been a great start of the season for City. They've lost their past 2 games, the Spurs and Brighton. But overall, looking at their transfer window, it's been a very good transfer window. Now, obviously, last season was one of the worst in the past few years for Man City, even though they still managed to get top 4, obviously. But this summer transfer window, they needed to make improvements still, and they've done that exactly. Now, obviously, they thought they needed to revamp their goalkeeper position. They brought in Gigi Donnarumma, who is arguably the best goalkeeper on the planet, and as well as that, then they've also brought in one of the best prospects in James Trafford as well. Alongside that, then, of course, Ryan Aitner is a fantastic buy there, in my opinion, too. They've continued to bulk up their forward line with the fantastic young player of Ryan Cherky as well. Dejani Reinders is a very good midfielder there as well on the City side. And overall, too, they've managed to get rid of a couple deadwood players such as Jack Grealish. They have managed to move on Ederson too, which definitely is big there as well. And so overall, I do believe City have definitely managed to score fantastically here. Now, will that translate into good results on the pitch? Only time will tell, of course. I do believe still the City will come good this season. It's only a matter of time. But overall, still, the City side looking very good. A very good summer transfer window. And for me, they come 3rd in the summer transfer window rankings. In 2nd place, then, just about missing out on 1st place, I have gone for the Gunners Arsenal. Yes, now, in my opinion, this has been probably Arsenal's best transfer window in years, maybe even in decades, because this transfer window has been insanely good, and it's left Mikel Arteta side in a position of no excuses now. If they do not win silverware, then I'm sorry, clearly Mikel Arteta has to be the problem now, because last season, yes, they were a very good squad, but they were never going to compete with Liverpool. Why? Because they didn't have a clinical striker, and they had zero squad depth as well. They've just completely revamped their side, and have handled both those issues now this summer transfer window. They brought in their striker and Victor Gyökeres. Interesting to see how he's going to get on. As well as that, then Ebreke Eze is a fantastic addition there to the forward line. They've also brought in a fantastic new midfielder in Zubimendi, who's a massive upgrade in my opinion on Thomas Partey. Now, Partey was decent obviously, but I do believe Zubimendi, being younger and all that, is still an upgrade there. As well as that, then, the squad depth has been handled fantastically. They brought in Christian Nørgaard, a very good player there in my opinion. Piero Hincapié's came in from Leverkusen and loan, a very good backup option there in the defence line. And as well as that, then, like Christian Mosquera as well. Even in that, of course, I mean, they've already got Spain's 2 best goalkeepers in their side. David Raya is starting, and Kepa Arrizabalaga as a backup too. Noni Madueke as well as a very underrated signing there too, albeit a bit overpriced, but still I do believe he isn't a bad player too. So overall, the Arsenal summer transfer window has been fantastic. It's been one of their best ever in my opinion, probably their best in my lifetime really. So overall, Arsenal, they've outdone themselves. They've left themselves now in a position where they have to win some sort of silverware this season. Otherwise, clearly, it's not the squad's problem. It's Mikel Arteta who's the issue. However, even though Arsenal's transfer window was practically flawless in my opinion, there still is one team who they just couldn't top. And that, unfortunately, is going to be Liverpool, the Premier League reigning champions. Now, I mean, even though I've just praised Arsenal so much there, and I kind of would have loved to put Arsenal ahead of Liverpool because I do believe they've done so much. However, Liverpool being Premier League champions, Arne Slot has strategically masterclassed the summer transfer window. You know, the incomings and outgoings between both those things, in my opinion, it's been pretty much perfect for Liverpool. It would have been 100% perfect if they got the Mark Gay deal over the line. However, they still managed to bring in Giovanni Leone as a new centre-back, which still is good there, obviously. They broke the British transfer record twice in one window. Florian Wirtz hasn't hit the ground running yet, and then Alexander Isak, who is a world-class striker. And they've also brought in Hugo Ekitike, who arguably himself is also a world-class striker, because so far for Liverpool, in the games he's played, he has looked fantastic as well. Overall, like, just such great signings there throughout the entire team too. Milos Kerkez, Jeremy Frimpong, two very good fullbacks there to replace the Asian Robertson, as well as the departing Trent as well. Overall, you know, Premier League champions, they've completely bulked up their squad as well. You know, they've managed to generate so much cash as well from like Luis Diaz, 75 million for him going to Bayern Munich. Darwin Núñez have managed to generate some cash for him as well, going to Al Hilal. Even players like Ben Doak, for example, going for about 25 million to Bournemouth, and he barely even played for Liverpool. Harvey Elliott, 35 million. Overall, Liverpool, they've just been fantastic, of course. The new transfer window's the best, in my opinion, in the Premier League, and once again this summer was no different. Premier League champions, they've completely revolutionised their squad, and Arne Slot is creating a squad which is good enough to win the Champions League as well. So there you go, lads. Unfortunately for me, the summer 2025 transfer windows in the Premier League, winners are going to be Liverpool. Anyway, folks, this is going to end this video. Hope you have enjoyed it, of course. What do you think about everything I've said in this video? Are Liverpool the summer transfer window champions in the Premier League? Is it Arsenal? Is it City? Is it someone else? Let me know in the comments below. As always, lads, remember to like the video, subscribe if you're new, share the video, click the bell, and so then I'll see you all in the next one here on KDFG.